Is that CYNTHI? I'm sorry?
CYNTHIA.
Okay.
I have a question. Who do you represent?
We represent the church.
You represent
Probably better that we call this meeting to order so everything's in the minutes. So if you have any questions, you can address it to me and be a part of the record.
Who hired you?
So we call the meeting to order.
Yeah.
So Barry,
The chairperson calls the meeting to order.
Okay. Robert's Rule of Order.
That's right. Okay, and we have a motion to change the bylaws and do this at a future meeting.
Would you like to open that for discussion?
This is a protocol in the bylaws, and we have to do this first before we get to making actual changes. So now we're going to discuss the change and see if we're in agreement upon it.
Well,
And
there's
then
going to be
the next meeting,
the next meeting is which will be
we'll make a decision.
several weeks hence. We can, during the time between now and then, we can actually be discussing the bylaws. So there's not been any kind of bylaw discussion today. It's the only thing that we are doing today is to determine that we need to change the bylaws. And that's the extent of the entire meeting. That's it.
Would somebody like to second the motion, or?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Well, then we should call this for a vote.
I think people here, including myself, don't really know the legal implications of any of this. You know, I'm a member of this church, and I'm here because of these books, because of the spirit that this place represents. And I'll tell you one thing, I can feel, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, a heavy air. Because the top trickling down, people don't know the whole story, including myself. I don't know what's going on. But I do have a vested interest in the life and the importance of this place. Not only for me, but for the people that have children here. So when we just start talking about second emotions and all that, I don't know what to say because I don't know what that implies.
Well, generally what happens whenever you have a 501 exempt organization, then you have to hold a certain amount of corporate formalities. In other words, you're incorporated, so if there's any kind of somebody gets hurt on your property, say any of the properties that you lease, or any of these properties, that you're not personally liable for any of the actions that happen. So generally churches will incorporate to limit those kind of liabilities. And in order to protect themselves from those liabilities, they have to follow through with a certain amount of corporate formalities. And that they have to meet, at least once a year. That way that you're representing the corporation's intent. In other words, you're really here to make sure that the church's position and everything is going forward the way that you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the purpose of this meeting, is to...
Then shouldn't we have a right to have an attorney present as whoever else is having an attorney present? It seems kind of unfair.
Well, I mean, the church does have an attorney present. I have a-
basically one
I have-
side. Yeah.
We were hired by the president of the
Who's the
corporation.
president?
You hired him?
The president
So
of the...
you were hired by Barry, not the church.
Well, actually, no. And that's the reason that we're here today, and that's why we're voting to amend the bylaws. Have you seen the bylaws?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you understand that it's pretty vague as to what's going on in the bylaws.
I would say there's a lot of stuff pretty vague right
Right.
now.
Well, and the
And so so this is the reason why we're opening up to even discussing whether they can be changed. So we all want to see a more defined, clearly laid out bylaws. The only way we can get to that point is to even have a agreement that they need to be changed.
Then why can't the church just vote on it? Why do we have an attorney here?
This is part of...
Well, because that's what's outlined in the bylaws that were enacted in 1980. In the bylaws that were enacted in 1980, the president has sole authority to contract with an attorney to represent the church. The president has the sole authority to do a number of things. So, as it sits, unless you change it, then you can't do what you want to do. What's happened is that this church has grown, You've got properties that are involved, and it's basically these just do not fit the purpose now as they did in 1980. There's just other more complexities that are involved, and unless you want to not have a voice in what goes on, then you should just leave the bylaws the way they are.
I think
But
I
if
think I
they're
can speak on behalf of some of the other church members that it's just uncomfortable having an attorney at what was supposed to
It
just
isn't
be.
uncomfortable for me, though. I think it's grand that we have somebody can sort out the legal things so that we can establish a firm foundation for making decisions to guide this place through all of the future unfoldments of business.
You don't work here. This is
Huh?
like my job, you know.
What?
You don't work here.
Yes, I do. I'm a member of the board. I'm a member of the board of directors.
You resigned 3 years ago, Thaddeus.
What?
You resigned from the board 3 years ago.
Yes, I did, but it was under false premises.
And the previous legal counsel for the church
Johnny
nullified that
took over the business.
resignation.
It was false premises to get me off the board. So you could get Luann on, and they can sell the business off from everybody.
Yeah, and there would be no one here if that was true.
let me liken
And
this.
plus, Thaddeus has been here forever, and he is a pillar of this place.
Since July
I
'77.
feel like he's
this
one of
place.
the wise older generation that can guide the youth.
I
You know-
feel like that as long as my wife's job's on the line, which I pretty much know it is, then it doesn't matter. We're here for her job, and I'm sure other people are here for the same thing.
So
You're
you,
fighting
so
for
you,
a job
so you
being
attend
eliminated?
services and
I
or
have attendance services.
I'm here for both the church
Well,
and my employment.
Go ahead, Olivia.
My concern with the building.
She's been trying to say something for a bit.
Well, I was wondering, like, we're talking about changing the bylaws, but all we've seen are the old ones. You're talking about going forward, but I don't think we understand where y'all are going forward towards.
okay.
And
Yeah,
so
we
that
can't-
makes
we can't
everyone
even-
uneasy.
We can't even think about going forward unless we have the vote to go forward.
Right.
So if we don't, like it was explained by council, everything stays the same,
So today we're just talking about,
even changing.
the
even
original
the
bylaws
possibility.
and then having a meeting later to.
And if you have issues you want in the bylaws, if you want things addressed that can be written into the bylaws, that's the time for you to compose those and submit them to council because they'll be assimilated together. And you'll have notice of the new bylaws, you'll be able to read them, then vote on them, vote for changes. It's not just this isn't a one-time thing. This is just to get things moving so that you can have a voice.
Think of this as a contract amongst your friends in the church. And that anytime you do business or you have any kind of an organization with your friends, then it's better to spell out everything in there. That way, if you have an understanding of what you agreed to and what you think should be done, and somebody else has an understanding as to what they've agreed to and what they think needs to be done, unless it's spelled out and that ambiguity is completely,
Right.
eliminated, then you guys at some point are going to come to a situation to where those two understandings are going to conflict.
I get that, but it still seems really ambiguous to me anyway. Even if we vote today to change the bylaws, we don't know what you guys are wanting to change. We don't know, are y'all wanting to change what it takes to be a member? Y'all wanting to change the
Well, that's the reason why
purpose
it'll
of
be
the
important for
church?
you to attend those meetings that we'll have on changing the bylaws. At that point, all those kinds of particulars can be addressed. Right now, we're just addressing the generality of being able to go forward on that. We can't go even to that level. We cannot call a committee to change the bylaws. That's totally improper according to the bylaws that we have right now. We have to be in agreement that they need to be changed and vote on that, and then we go forward.
There isn't any preconceived goal yet. All there is just to make a change. We don't have.
We've all been here a while.
We've been here a while. And the fact that there's not some preconceived goal, it seems almost ludicrous. I've been coming here for 29 years. And I've worked here for, I don't know, I lost count how many
But I
years.
do have to say, to be fair, it's not just one head member that
Right.
has preconceived goals. It's not, it's all the way around.
Well, we need to move forward on this motion, and that's all we're about. And we need to go on with the Sunday service.
Yes.
Wouldn't we be working together anyway? Whatever we did, we'd
Well,
all
we
be
already
working
have
together
been.
anyway.
I mean, we've all been here 20 or something years. I mean,
So like he says, it should augment it, should make it better. Maybe define something
No.
that need to be defined.
Now,
in a
Lee
good way.
is concerned about his wife losing his job. Is there anything to that? Can you put that at rest?
Well, let's put it this way. This meeting was called to change the bylaws.
Yes, I know.
To,
I
do-
just
to,
want,
to, to,
but-
to have any business in a day-to-day kind of thing. brought
You would have
into-
to give everybody notice on the agenda if you were to bring up some new business.
Okay.
In other words, that's why this was posted, to let everybody know what the meeting was about and an
Okay, you just keep it
opportunity
that.
to be heard and to show up. And anytime you bring in new business, then, you know, it's something that, say there's somebody else who's interested in speaking on her behalf or on his behalf or on her behalf, you know, or anybody's
Sure,
behalf,
sure, yeah.
then that gives them the opportunity to be here and speak. So if it's outside the agenda of the meeting,
Yes.
then there's people that might want to show up and talk that weren't given the opportunity.
I have a question. So the proposed changes are not going to be presented? Is that going to be determined at a later date
Well, what's going to happen is that you would set a later meeting.
to determine what those proposed
Right,
changes
right.
are?
This is just to open up and to begin a motion and have that motion seconded that you have the intent to amend the bylaws.
I just like to take just a moment while everybody's here, more so the people who I have a history with. No offense to people I don't know,
None taken.
but you know, we have everyone who's been here knows that there is some sort of drama or different sides form and all these things, and I want to be the first to apologize to everybody here for anything that has been propagated against me or that I've done, because my intentions, I want everyone to know, are pure for this place. And I think that's a problem that all of us have, is admitting our faults. And then the other problem is, whenever someone admits the faults, the other side condemns instead of forgiving. So we have in this place an obligation for people who believe in God, for people who believe in the truth, who believe in the light. This place is a pillar for that. While the world is suffering, while the youth doesn't have a place to go, even in our hometown, where this is the only church I've ever known. If we are resolving to something like this, I feel disgusted by it. You know?
Like, in other words, you wouldn't be any more in danger of your job. There seems to be like a major concern here than you would be ordinarily anyway.
I don't have a job here. That's not my.
Well, to address that concern, though, which seemed to be like the major issue presented,
well,
isn't it?
you know,
No, the major issue is this place is a energy field. Thaddeus, you know, you've been here. You've been involved with wisdom traditions. This place is a pillar for something like that.
That's right. That's
It's
why
our
I'm here.
obligation to protect it. You know, forget about me, my personality. I might be an asshole, and I'm sorry, but I don't have any ill will. You know, and I'll put my cards out on the table in front of everybody here. I don't have any ill will towards anybody. I have a desire to see this place flourish.
for the record, I second.
Yeah.
Great. And Cameron.
And actually, this place is flourishing. There's really not. I mean, this place runs better now, makes more money now, probably than it has in years and years, and it in particularly runs better. I've
Yes.
never actually seen it as cohesive as it is now.
This is my best work experience here thus far.
With the exception of maybe somebody doesn't show up for work, or the toilet gets clogged, or
roof
there's
leaks.
a light bulb out. This place runs great. We're making money, and we're serving the community. The thing that we really need to do is to serve the community more. That's the real essence of. If there's any changes in the bylaws, that's what they need to be focused on. Not this infighting.
No,
Yeah.
it is not infighting. It is to get a few things in line that we've been wanting for a long time. Like I was out at a thrift store and everything is barcoded. Everything at the thrift store. Not in here.
Well, there,
Well, is this a church meeting or a business meeting? I keep getting confused on
Church,
these
well,
two
church,
subjects.
church and business
Obviously, it's
are
both.
side by side in bed together.
I think
Well, I
that's
mean,
a big
that's a
reason.
valid question, and you know, you've got a church that is involved with business. I mean, it's not strictly a church in and of itself. You've got rental properties, you've got side retail businesses. You know, there's quite a few, you know, intricacies that blur the line between, you know, say church meeting / business meeting. And that's what we're trying to have here, is that in order for people to not be confused as to what's going on, which is what it seems to be going on right now. I think people are confused as to what's going on, how to handle things, how to have a voice in what goes on. That's what the bylaws are there to do, is to make sure everybody has a voice, to make sure that everybody's duties and powers and responsibilities are clearly defined. At this point, because these bylaws were drafted in 1980, this church has grown into more of a business, more of a retail outlet, you know, and other things have fundamentally changed. And in that, the bylaws, you know, I mean, it's ultimately up to you as to whether or not the bylaws be amended. But these confusions and ambiguities are direct cause of these ambiguous bylaws. And if the bylaws spelled it out a little more clearly, then maybe you wouldn't feel so disenchanted.
Are you communicating with the other board members at all? Because, I mean, we respect them as well as we do Barry. I mean, you know, we've all been here
There's no
together for a long
representation on that
time.
end of it.
So I'm curious
On
how much
what-
of their input's being put in on the new bylaw. I mean, I don't,
They'll be-
My understanding is that we've got 2 board members here.
Who are the
There's
members
2
of the
other
board
board
as far as
members
you know?
also.
Okay. Well, I mean, who are these other purported?
Actually, there's only one other board member.
Beth and Ruth have been there for.
So what position does Beth and Ruth hold?
Ruth is
That's
the
your-
board member.
Well, I mean,
Vice
there's.
President.
Ruth is
Well, I mean,
the
let's
board
look at the
member.
bylaws. I mean, what position do you think that Beth and Ruth hold? Because according to Article 6,
I
there's.
don't think that's proper for me to talk about.
Well, I mean, you're raising
Yeah,
an
that's-
issue, and I'm
so that-
asking to clear it
and
up.
that's
I
the
mean,
reason why.
you've got a
This-
president, you have a vice president,
The-
you have a
this-
secretary and a treasurer, and you know, if you're saying they're on the board, then I need to know what your understanding is their position.
well, I think Beth is vice president and I think Ruth is secretary and they probably both show treasurer. And does everyone that works here?
You're going by
So what do you think,
1980
Shelley?
board members?
Yeah, but
Is
Well,
that your assumption?
I'm going by the bylaws.
From what year?
I mean,
1980.
yeah, what year is
1980?
the bylaws
20,
and-
30 years ago? You don't think there hasn't been some changes since then?
There haven't been any changes that I've seen.
Thaddeus,
That
Are you-
you've seen, I
which
agree with that.
position on the board do you hold?
Treasurer.
That's news to me.
Yeah, me too.
Sure, it's news to you, but so what? That's the way it is. I've been here for a long time. And I was illegally put out, and I'm legally still on.
Well, let's think
Because
about
I
this
accept
position.
to be on.
There's no provision for removal of officers in the bylaws.
I thought the removal of officers was according to the directors.
So the directors vote to remove themselves?
Yeah, that was my understanding in looking at
Did
it.
you vote to remove yourself?
They gave me, when I was
I mean, I'm just saying, you
Yes.
know, did you hold an annual meeting where
No, we
minutes
didn't have,
held?
they
I
came to
mean-
my home. Johnny D came to my house and brought a resignal thing because I was ill and recovering. So I couldn't function on the board to get there, so I signed it under.
And the previous legal counsel said it was invalid.
False premises.
The previous legal counsel.
Because I haven't seen that particular, but what I'm saying is that yes, the bylaws that we are operating under are from 1980.
So it's either a yes/no thing
Okay.
today. It has nothing to do with all these other things. It's yes, we're gonna have another meeting in the future to change the bylaws, or no, I like the bylaws the way they are. Let's keep
How
everything
can, how
the same.
can we even vote on that without seeing the bylaws?
And we don't even
We
know
don't-
who the actual.
We have a
When did
copy
you
of the
sign this
bylaws
letter,
as
Ted?
they are right now. The 1980
When did you
bylaws
sign this letter? How
circulated
far back?
for the last.
I can't hear you.
When did
Okay,
you
okay,
sign?
we've got to keep minutes of this meeting, so.
When did
So
you
let's
sign
just
the bylaw?
move the
When did
vote.
you sign this resignation letter? How long ago?
That was in 2007, July
8.
8 something like that, when I
Okay.
just got out of the hospital.
And the fact of the matter is that, you know, I would like to address all of this, but you should probably vote to maybe bring another meeting, because you can't operate as to anything that's outside of the agenda of this meeting.
Yeah, I just
So-
want to, I'm
so
just asking one
according
more
to-
question, if you
According
don't
to the
mind.
Robert's Rules of Orders, which is what we're supposed to follow as per
Understood.
the bylaws.
I
and
understand
this
what you're
is a new
saying.
business.
In Robert's Rules of Orders, first you have to make sure you have a valid meeting to begin with. I want to find out from Thad, how many meetings since 2008 he's sat as a
Well,
board member.
then the
at
presumption is on
meeting.
you to show that
I'm
he's
just-
an invalid.
I'm not showing anything, I'm
Right now-
asking a
right now,
question.
according to things, well, if there are employees here, but they're not church members, according to the bylaws as they are, if we need to, we could remove all those people that have never attended church here, ever, once. Okay?
Okay.
They are not church members, because you have to
Yeah, that
attend
doesn't-
church
yeah.
at least once in the 3-year period. If you
Understood.
never have,
Yeah.
we could technically have those people removed out of here, but we're inviting the community.
Understood.
And all we're doing is having a vote on one thing, which is, do we want to change the laws, bylaws, yes or no?
Okay.
And if you wouldn't want to say no, then that's your
It's-
right.
It's not a matter of yes or no.
It's
My
all it
point
is.
is
That's
this
all it
meeting,
is.
is the meeting valid?
Let's let Angela say.
Well, I mean, you're interrupting too. I saw her raising her hand. Are you finished?
No, I'm just, if I can get an answer to my question, from Thad, is how many board meetings has he been here has he been on since 2008?
Since I resigned, you mean?
Yeah,
None, of course.
no, okay, so you haven't
But see,
functioned as a board member since
that's the
2008?
reason that we're here, is because the membership of the church, the article that addresses that, Article 4, is rather vague as to
Okay,
who
it just
actually
sounds
is a
little gray
member
to
of
me.
the
It's-
church.
I'm just,
I mean, it's vague, and that's why we're trying to get a motion passed to
Okay.
amend it to clear it up. Now,
You know, I haven't been here as long as most of you guys, so I don't really know, but as far as I know, in the last couple of years that I've been here, never once has this come up in the past, you know, like this.
That's the reason why we're bringing it.
But, you know, I've never once feared for my job until now that these bylaws are coming up. But it doesn't only affect the church, it affects the business because it's a church doing business as. You know, I don't have to be a member to be affected by it. You know, I'm a member of this workplace.
Well, and I
But
think
you do
it
have to
says
be a
in the
member to be
bylaws
a
that
voting-
As long as you're doing
Then-
service, healing, education, whatever, then you are a member of the church if you're doing it for here. It says
No.
it in the
But
bylaws.
but
I don't think you
actually,
have
the
to
bylaws are
service
rather.
to be a member of the church.
It says as
And-
long
and
as
if
you're
that's what
doing
you're
service
saying-
for the church.
Then you need to separate the business from the church.
Okay,
No,
so
it-
we're agreed that it's kind of vague, right?
It's the same.
Service for the
But
church.
it's not the same.
It's the same.
Okay, so you have you both have a
In our congregation, yours.
If you're saying I'm not a member of this church, then that's like you saying that I'm not an employee.
You can vote yes or no. That's all we got. It's either yes, you want to change the bylaws, or no, I would like to keep the bylaws the same.
The
That's
bylaws
the
have
only-
never once affected me, so I'm fine.
That's the reason why it is important that we
I think
we
the
have
bylaws
this.
that you're the only person who's.
Well, and let's address the lady in the
Diane.
corner.
Yes, I am a member of the congregation here periodically, and I would like to make the first motion that we.
There is already a motion on the
Okay.
floor, so.
Well, then if there's a first motion, I would like to second it. that
Okay,
we
well then let's
have
call this
another-
motion for a vote.
Okay.
Who all is in favor of amending the bylaws?
Can you put that in layman terms?
Yeah, it's not that I don't want to agree, it's just that I don't understand.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
So can
You're asking us to vote on something and we don't even know who the board members are.
I'm not asking you to. The president,
We have-
according to the bylaws, has called a meeting and has addressed the motion on the board, and the president, as the officer of the church, has called for a vote. So I see that there were 7 yeas. Who all is against the amendment of the bylaws?
That's okay. But
I'm neither. I'm
Okay, you
stepping
can
out.
abstain. You can abstain. So I record that there's nobody that's against the amendment
No,
of the
that's
bylaws.
incorrect.
We just wanna know a little bit
So
more
7-4
about what's going on, because
Can we
this is-
not
Well,
decide
well,
to
well,
vote
but see,
about
that's-
this later? Why do we have to vote about it today? Because we just now got all this information today. Can't we have
Yeah,
another
we-
meeting?
we
say
have
that
all-
week?
So there's nobody that is voting against it.
I think
No.
everybody
Yeah.
that
I mean, you
wants
could
to
vote
see
against
should
it
be
and bring it
here.
up again in another meeting. I mean, but as it sits right now, I'm not recording any nays.
Well,
Correct?
it's being recorded. The
No, I'm
nature of
asking
this
a very
meeting.
direct question. Is there anybody that votes nay on amending the bylaws?
You guys know we're not stupid.
Can I
We know
say
what
something?
you're doing.
I think
This is a
everybody
stupidity.
should
This is
be
Well, I mean, I'm giving you a
genuinely
voice.
important from the
And-
standpoint
and-
of defining something.
So
that
I'm
then
recording
you
that
need
there
to
aren't
define.
any
Yeah,
nays.
that's the
No,
point of
that's
it.
wrong.
So okay, so one nay.
No, everybody that works here should be here. Everybody
Exactly.
should be here.
What was
And
the
Everybody.
point?
understand
Everyone
what
had a
we're
choice
voting
to
on.
be there.
Because that's not right. Like, I'm confused.
Okay, but I haven't seen anybody that voted nay. Is there
We're-
anyone that votes nay? Because
we're
we have a
undecided.
motion on the board on you know that's
Well,
that's
what?
Why,
We're undecided because everybody's not here. so
there's
it's
an
not
active
fair.
motion that there have been 7 yays.
Why don't you vote? Why don't we vote on how many people are undecided because we don't understand what all
Well, you
are
can
doing?
abstain. You can abstain.
How about that?
You can abstain. You can vote yes, and you can vote no. That's really your 3 choices.
I'm gonna
you can't vote to
abstain.
table the discussion?
Everybody's not
You
here.
can't vote to table the discussion?
Is this a?
Well, I mean, you can vote
I'm
no
getting confused.
and then address it at a later
I'm
meeting.
getting real confused here, guys.
Well, I mean, I show that we have a.
I make a motion that to affirm the vote and that we set this for a future date to be determined, and that
Well, at a time.
all those people that would like can input during that time.
I would like to second that motion, please.
Well, I mean, are we in members?
So are we adjourned?
We have to, for the meeting.
We're adjourning the meeting.
Okay.
We're adjourned?